Our thanks to you, Kelsey. I'm joined right now by Hill columnist Niall Stange, of course, in Washington for us. Good to see you, as always. Abe, born into a family of politicians, he became well known for Abenomics, his economic strategy. Many credit with turning Japan's economy around a decade ago, though some say there were a lot of unkept promises. What do you think would have led to an enemy like this gunman targeting him?
It's difficult to say at this early stage, Adrienne, but obviously Shinzo Abe was speaking at an election rally, elections imminent just in the next few days in Japan. Now, the party or the party bloc with which he was identified is leading the opinion polls, had been doing so before these tragic events. So, obviously there was an element of popularity for the political viewpoint that he represented. But anytime you have an election campaign, you have passions inflamed. We'll have to see if it is connected in some fashion to that.
What is the situation in terms of how this could impact the campaign season? I mean, 2 days away from a national election in Japan, what would the impacts be?
You would think, I suppose, that there would be a natural human impulse to be more sympathetic to Shinzo Abe's party or political viewpoint. I assume there will not be really any campaigning in the final 48 hours or so before these elections. The current sitting Prime Minister has condemned this as a dastardly act. Now, we don't want to go too far in assuming the assassination was definitely connected to party politics. Shinzo Abe was controversial in some respects for his views on Japan's defense, for example, moving it toward a more traditional military posture and away from pacifism. But it does have some kind of impact on the election campaign, no doubt about that.
Kelsey, in her reporting, talked about former President Trump speaking out about Abe being a friend to America. Of course, newly appointed U.S. Ambassador to Japan, Rahm Emanuel, tweeting out, sending his condolences. How would you characterize Abe's relationship with the U.S.?
It was very much about establishing stronger links with the United States, irrespective of party. You mentioned former President Trump on one side and Rahm Emanuel, a very fervent Democrat, on the other. During the Trump presidency, Shinzo Abe was quite a frequent golf partner of the then president. His personal closeness is associated by some with Japan escaping some of the tariffs that then President Trump imposed on other nations. But not a partisan character when it comes to American politics. He was very proud, for example, of the fact that he helped facilitate the first visit by an American president to Hiroshima, and that was President Obama back in 2016.
Now, I have to give some stats. We've touched on this a little bit about how safe Japan is. In 2021, there were only 10 incidents of gun violence. In a country of 127 million people, only one death resulting from a shooting. This is a country where a culture of honor combined with the strictest gun laws in the world, they make for, again, very few shootings. In a nation like this, what is our thought about what the public will do? Will this send a ripple effect of more uncertainty and lack of confidence at such a pivotal time?
It'll certainly send people into great shock. I think, Adrienne, I was seeing one expert describe this assassination as culturally unfathomable by the standards of Japan, where gun injuries, gun deaths are so rare. Handguns aren't even legally permitted at all. There is some early reporting that the assailant here may have used a homemade gun. We'll have to see if that is duly confirmed or not. But obviously, this is a very shocking event that will ripple not just through the Japanese elections or through that region of the world, but worldwide, not least here in the United States, when he had worked so hard to establish strong relations.
Niall, thank you as always. We're going to check back in with you a little later on in the morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Adrienne.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.